The Eternal City has witnessed gladiators, emperors, and legends. But what Alex Eala just did on the clay of Rome, even the statues seemed to cheer. She walked onto the Pietrangeli court with the weight of a nation on her shoulders and the memory of early exits haunting her steps. Magdalena Frech had beaten higher-ranked players before. The Polish veteran was supposed to be the favorite. But someone forgot to tell the 20-year-old from Manila, fans. The first set was a statement. 6-0, a bagel served cold under the Roman sun. The second set was a stumble. 3-6, a reminder that clay had never been her surface. The third set was a masterpiece. At 4-4, with the match hanging by a thread, she ripped a forehand winner that sent the Philippine flags into a frenzy. 2 hours and 7 minutes after the first ball was struck, history was made. Not just a victory, a breakthrough. And Filipino fans across the globe are asking the same question. Is Alex Eala finally becoming the clay court champion they always believed she could be? The first game was nervous. The next 6 were flawless. And by the time Magdalena Frech looked at the scoreboard, she was already down a set. Let me take you inside the opening act of Alex Eala's Rome masterpiece. Because what happened in that first set was not just tennis, it was an exorcism. The Pietrangeli court at the Foroitalico is one of tennis's most atmospheric venues, seating just 2,000 spectators in an intimate bowl that amplifies every cheer, every groan, every heartbeat. On this day, the Philippine flags filled every available space, turning the historic clay into a sea of red, white, and blue. The match did not begin smoothly. Eala, ranked number 42 in the world, opened the first game by falling behind 15-40. The nerves were visible. The weight of her clay season struggles, second-round exits in Linz and Madrid, a first-round loss in Stuttgart, pressed down on her shoulders. Then, something clicked. She won the next 4 points to hold serve, and from that moment, she never looked back. The first set was a masterclass in controlled aggression. Eala broke Frech's serve repeatedly, dominating the rallies with crisp forehand attacks that forced the 28-year-old Polish veteran into error after error. The bagel arrived in just 27 minutes, a clean, clinical 6-0 statement that announced to the Foroitalico that this was not the same player who had been dismissed 6-0, 6-1 in last year's first round. I told myself that I wasn't tired enough, Eala would later explain. I tried my best to give that little extra push every single point, and it paid off. But Frech, a former world number 22, was not ready to surrender. The second set was a warning. The clay was unforgiving, and Alex Eala had been here before. Too many times before. Let me walk you through the set that threatened to undo everything. The bagel had sent a message, but Frech was not intimidated. The Polish veteran adjusted her tactics, tightened her play, and seized control early in the second set. Eala found herself in a familiar position, trailing 0-3, searching for answers on a surface that has never come naturally. She fought back. She held serve in the fourth game. She even broke Frech to cut the deficit to 2-3. The crowd stirred. The flags waved. Hope flickered. But Frech was steady. The 28-year-old, who had beaten higher-ranked players before, did not panic. She held her serve, widened the gap, and eventually sealed the second set 6-3. The match was tied. The momentum had shifted. This was the moment, the exact moment where the old Alex Eala might have crumpled. The early exits in Stuttgart, the collapse against Ostapenko in Linz, the brutal scoreline against Mertens in Madrid. They all lived in this space, in the silence between sets, in the weight of a nation's expectations pressing down on 20-year-old shoulders. But the player who walked off the court after that second set was not the
I'm a much better player physically and mentally than I was last year, Eala had said before the tournament. Now, she had to prove it. The deciding set began, and with it, a battle that the foroitalico would not soon forget.
The clock had passed 2 hours. The tension was suffocating. And then Alex Eala did something that made the statues of Rome seem to lean in. Let me take you inside the final chapter of this epic encounter. The third set was a war of attrition. The players traded holds, neither willing to give an inch. At 4-4, the match hung in the balance, suspended on a single thread of possibility. The ninth game became the turning point. 17 minutes of tension. 4 deuces, advantages that appeared and vanished like ghosts on the clay. The crowd was on its feet, the Philippine flags waving in desperate, synchronized waves, the chants of Laban Alex echoing off the historic stands. Then came the moment. Eala, with the score locked at 40-40, unleashed a blistering forehand winner down the line. The ball landed flush on the baseline. Frech could only watch. The game was hers. The lead was 5-4. The 10th game was anticlimactic, not because Frech surrendered, but because Eala refused to give her a chance. 3 consecutive errors from the Polish veteran sealed the victory. The Filipina fell to her knees, then rose to acknowledge the crowd that had carried her through. Final score, 6-0, 3-6, 6-4. 2 hours and 7 minutes. A
first ever main draw victory at the Italianopen. For context, last year, Eala had managed just 1 game against Marta Kostyuk, losing 0-6, 1-6 in the first round. This year, she had turned that humiliation into history. The victory secured her 35 ranking points and €25,515, approximately $1.8 million in prize money. Her ranking, which had slipped to number 45 earlier in the clay season, climbed back to number 42. But the numbers only tell part of the story.
After the match, Alex Eala sat in front of the press corps, and her words revealed why this victory was different from all the others. Let me take you inside the press conference that followed the victory, because what Eala said in those moments revealed more than any tennis statistic ever could. I told myself that I wasn't tired enough, Eala explained when asked about her mindset in the deciding set. I tried my best to give that little extra push every single point, and it paid off. The phrase, "not tired enough," is revealing. It suggests a player who has learned that limits are often self-imposed, that the body will stop when the mind tells it to, not the other way around. She also reflected on the unique nature of tennis, where every match is a new reality. Everybody is really good at this level, and anything can happen. It's a profession that keeps you on your toes, because every single match is a different circumstance. For me on clay, every match is really a battle. When asked about her relationship with the surface that has given her so much trouble, Eala was honest, but optimistic. Of course I'm starting to build that relationship, especially at this level. This is my first season with these high-level tournaments, and I know that I can do well. I'm a much better player physically and mentally than I was last year. The improvement is not just in her game, it is in her perspective. Sometimes one match can change a lot, especially for me on clay. That's not my strongest surface, so every match is really a battle. She also revealed the influence of the Rafanadalacademy and the coaching team that has shaped her. Joan Bosch, Yuke Bauza, and Sandro Vianney have been with her every step of the way, their constant communication creating the foundation for her steady rise. And there is another figure guiding her from the shadows. Eala revealed that she has been receiving coaching from Toninadal, the legendary mentor who guided his nephew Rafael to 22 Grand Slam titles. If you told me that when I was younger, there's no way I would have believed you, she said.
3 early exits on clay, a ranking that slipped 16 spots, and then Rome happened.
Let me zoom out and look at the bigger picture of Alex Eala's clay season, because the victory over Frech was not an isolated incident. It was a turning point. Before Rome, Eala's clay campaign had been a struggle. In Linz, she fell in the second round to Jelena Ostapenko after squandering a 5-1 lead. In Stuttgart, she lost in the first round to Leylah Fernandez. In Madrid, she was demolished 6-2, 6-1 by Elise Mertens, managing just 3 games in 76 minutes. The ranking slipped from a career-high number 29 to number 45. The critics sharpened their knives. The whispers grew louder. Maybe she's just a hard-court player. Then, something changed. The break between Madrid and Rome was not a retreat. It was a recalibration. Eala returned to the Rafanadalacademy in Mallorca, the place where she arrived as a 13-year-old with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. She trained under the watchful eyes of her coaches, and, occasionally, the legendary Toninadal. When she arrived in Rome, she was not the same player who had left Madrid. The victory over Frech was a breakthrough, not just because she won, but because of how she won. She survived a second-set stumble, the kind of momentum shift that has derailed her in the past. She found another gear in the third set, the kind of resilience that champions are made of. And she did it all in front of the Filipino fans who had traveled across Europe to support her. "I want to give back as much as they give from me," Eala said of her supporters. "But the obligation first and foremost is to myself, my family, and my team. The rest will follow." The next challenge is already waiting. Xinyuwang, the number 31 seed who defeated Eala in the Auckland semifinals in January. A rematch, a chance at revenge, an opportunity to break past the second round for the first time on clay this season.
Rome has witnessed countless comebacks, but Alex Eala's resurrection on the red clay may be remembered as one of the sweetest. For 3 tournaments, the Filipina star struggled to find her footing on the surface that had always been her greatest challenge. The losses piled up, the rankings slipped, the doubts grew louder. Then came Rome. The bagel in the first set against Frech was a statement of intent. The resilience in the third set was a testament to her growth. And the final score of 6-0, 3-6, 6-4 was a declaration. Alex Eala belongs on clay. "I'm a much better player physically and mentally than I was last year," she had promised. In Rome, she delivered. The victory earned her a second-round showdown with Xinyuwang, the Chinese star who broke her heart in Auckland. It's a chance at revenge, a chance at a third-round meeting with number 2 seed Elena Rybakina, a chance to prove that the clay season is not over, it is just beginning. The Philippine flags will fly again. The chants of Laban Alex will echo off the marble statues, and the 20-year-old from Manila will step onto the clay knowing that she has finally found her footing. The question that remains is simpler than it seems. Was Alex Eala's victory over Magdalena Frech the breakthrough her clay season desperately needed? Or is this just the beginning of something much bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to All Sports for more stories that go beyond the scoreline. Alex Eala secured her first ever main draw victory at the Italian Open in Rome, defeating world number 45 Magdalena Frech 6-0, 3-6, 6-4 in 2 hours and 7 minutes. The Filipina star, who lost 0-6, 1-6 in last year's first round, opened with a dominant bagel set before recovering from a second set stumble. The deciding set reached 4-4 before Eala broke through with a blistering forehand winner, then forced 3 consecutive errors from the Polish veteran to seal the victory. The win earned her 35 ranking points and €25,515, moving her back to number 42 after slipping earlier in the clay season. Eala revealed that she has been receiving coaching from Toninadal at the Rafanadalacademy. She will next face number 31 seed Xinyuwang in the second round, a rematch of their Auckland semifinal where Wang prevailed in 3 sets,